Do not watch this if you'd like to play any Alan Wake game. Just like a fat kid with gas in a bounce house, I ruin it all. When I say games should take risks, I mean Alan Wake 2. If people ever doubt that video games can be art, please point them in the direction of this game.
Oh shit, this coffee is shit.
The merging of storylines, live-action cutscenes, music, and environments that make your jaw drop is just top-notch. And really no other dev is utilizing the medium, I mean hell, multiple mediums, in this way. Except for maybe like the Nier Studios. The narrative tells the player there are no rules. Buckle up, anything could happen, anyone could die, shut up and enjoy the ride. And the gameplay says, take this very, very seriously. Question everything. Apply logic if possible. All to find who is really behind the horrors that are taking place around you. Spoiler alert, it's exactly who you think it is. The game itself is divided into 2 campaigns. One in the current day, and then one taking place simultaneously, but set kind of like in the past in this weird space called The Dark Place. And I'm going to focus on that second one right now. Or as I like to call it, Alan Wake 2, Alan's version. This version of the game is set in a Tim Burton-esque New York City. The type of place where opening one door and walking down a hallway will lead you to coming out of the same door you just went in.
I mean, the writer is physically in his writer's room, trapped there, and he projects himself out to this dark dream of New York through the story he is writing. Like astral projection. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Go on. I should be taking notes here. This is great stuff.
Nothing about it makes sense, but in a cool way. The thought and care put into these levels, especially the puzzles that take such a small little bit of mental work, but are often incredibly rewarding and easy to solve, are great. My real issue with the game is that there's not enough of that. There's so many great little pieces of detective work, they're just the only part that's not actually being a detective. See, Alan's version isn't really a detective game. It's more of a escape the labyrinth game. If the labyrinth was inhabited by a budget Lieutenant Daniels from The Wire and the smoke monster from Lost. And in between those monsters are just the random enemies that you can easily run by and who stop being scary about the 5th time you see them. And yet, playing through Alan's version of the campaign, using his abilities to change the game world and find ammo stashes and other lore background is great stuff. At a certain point, its real-time cutscenes move from corny to cool, and while I don't understand or love all of the plot points, especially when it comes to the Max Payne, not Max Payne novel within The Dark Place, I really admire the fact that they went for it, and the horrifying level design fits perfectly with the atmosphere. You'll have to steel your nerves so much that by the end, you'll be kicking darkness right in the ass. Now for the modern portion of the game, or what I like to call Alan Wake 2 Saga's version. If the Alan chapters were directed by Tim Burton or Terrence Malick, then the Saga chapters are directed by David Lynch or Fincher. The problem with this part of the game is that you're supposed to be this nitty-gritty detective.
I bet they have good fish here.
Only instead of having a cool power like Alan's rewrite the world mechanic, Saga has a power that's called give me all the information, please.
Elmo thinks the cult is just an urban legend. Or does he?
It's all true. It's all true.
A similar story happened to a young man in the Pacific Northwest about 20 years ago.
If the game was just 15 hours of this and no Alan, I'm not really sure I would finish it. And that's a shame because I really like the vibe. The first game took its vibe from the first season of Twin Peaks in a really heavy way. So it's no surprise to see this second season take the vibe of the much darker Twin Peaks The Return. So they want to do something different with this game, and that's really fine. If they want to tell me the whimsy is found in those moments where the detectives are bitching about their ex-wives or drinking coffee, that's cool. I can roll with that. But when the crime you're trying to solve becomes an ambiguous, unsolvable riddle spanning multiple dimensions, like Twin Peaks The Return, you begin to wonder why you are even trying to be a detective at all. To show you what I'm talking about, take the intro of Alan Wake 2. The intro to this game is fucking amazing, and it does a really good job of really quickly setting the player up to inhabit their role as a logical FBI detective. This includes a system where you can gather evidence and post it on a corkboard with red string and everything. It really makes you feel like an FBI agent, if you were an FBI agent who knew all the answers ahead of time. Every piece of evidence you might need is clearly marked. You can only select relevant stuff, and the game pretty much immediately tells you if your selection is true or not, thus taking any trial and error out of the game. And if some of that evidence isn't relevant now, but might be relevant later, it will mark that and say relevant later. I see what they are going for with these choices too. You cannot appeal to a mass audience with a legitimately challenging detective game, because the nature of dead ends are frustrating. It's why the best game this year, Shadows of a Doubt, will always be niche, because getting stuck is not fun. And as a dev, your job is to make it so the player can't get stuck, while at the same time balancing giving them a challenge. To make interrogations take place in one location, so the player doesn't have to spend boring hours running back and forth between areas of the map after they have new information. It makes sense, and it was probably the right move for the game's success. It's not like the sequences are bad or not well done. They're aesthetic as hell, and they even invert them sometimes and make you re-ask questions, or sometimes they get corrupted. They're fun, but maybe let us ask questions that result in dead ends within the mind place mechanic. Or easiest, just don't tell the player the clue will be useful later. I want to figure that information out, not be told it. The only time I really enjoyed the corkboard mechanic was when Remedy's genius developers used it to show Saga's deteriorating mental state. That was really, really cool. And I understand that most gaming companies don't want players wasting time chasing leads that aren't going to pan out. The result is a subpar detective game that takes up 1/4 the best survival horror game this year. I mean, this game is way scarier than Resident Evil 7 or Dead Space. The art direction alone would put other games to shame. Even other insanely cinematic games like Cyberpunk or God of War don't look as good as this. Not that this game has better graphics than those games, it doesn't. Nor does it have better performances in those games. In fact, I think Saga's performance is kind of wooden.
Drowned? Your daughter? That's so weird you don't remember. How do you know I have a daughter?
What separates Alan Wake 2 is its use of sound, camera work, Remedy shows such mastery of their craft. It makes the lack of set pieces in Alan Wake 2 hurt. I can remember various levels of control. That really big hall with the plants, the director's office, the prison, the quarry thing. But I really only remember Coffee World from Alan Wake 2. I think it's because they wanted this really grounded, realistic detective vibe. But then they just completely blow through that premise the second a corpse reanimates itself and the sheriff pops out of existence.
No, wait.
I think if you kept that crazy tone and went more crazy with the environments, like those evil barrels from Alan Wake 1, if you did that, you would get rid of a lot of the comments on this game being a walking simulator or boring to non-fans of Alan Wake or Twin Peaks. They want to play a nitty-gritty detective game, and they're told pretty much immediately that logic doesn't apply. So I understand why some people might think this is a 3 out of 10 most boring game they've ever played, and others might think it's a 10 out of 10 perfect, because Microsoft and Sony don't take risks on games like this. I mean, hats off to the writers and executives who are able to push through these crazy plot ideas.
Look, it's the Bright Falls blended organic coffee from Old Deer Diner.
They even throw in a full-fledged and fun musical moment. And I really think things like that are the best part about having a really strong auteur director behind a game like Sam Lake, even if the end result is a bit masturbatory. For a non-fan, I would say probably wait for a sale. However, if you are a fan of crazy bullshit, if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, if you're a fan of Alan Wake 1, you should play this game. It really rewards players for watching the web series, for reading the comics, for playing American Nightmare. It does such a good job. With a game standard here at Tibbs TV, I'm Jonathan Rosenblum.